are now reawakened in shadow. For your truth to be seen within thy letter, despite what many have thought to seek. The truth will always read. Long now for the revival, the lost magic has made its arrival.
Hello guys, and welcome to Friday's night show. We are live on the Bald and Bonkers Company Network and channel, and we are doing the Lost Magics tonight, guys. So tonight's show is about the Slender Man, and I've done some research and looked into the story about who he's supposed to be, and I've got a few bits on some sightings. It's not a lot, but I've got a few bits on sightings. So I'm going to be covering that. But first, I would like to do a big shout out to, obviously, the Bald and Bonker Boys, to DNTV, to Parapost, to all of the networks that share us out, including the TV network as well. Big shout outs to all of you, to our sponsors, and obviously to all of our angels that are in the room tonight as well, and those that do come in. So a merry meeting to you all. So as I said, the topic tonight is going to be the Slender Man. I've decided that with the Bald and Bonkers show that I do, the Lost Magics, that I'm going to bring different categories into the shows, because there is only so much of the witchcraft that you can show with being a witch, because it is a secret thing to be doing. Okay, so I thought, well, bring all of the other stuff in as well, like the paranormal, crypto, UFOs, you know, any informational or educational streams, anything like that. I don't mind doing all of this because it is something I've done since I've been on YouTube. So I'm going to incorporate that in my shows on a Friday, and try and get things like interviews and stuff as well, trying to get people to come up that have got abilities, or if you're investigators or you're people that have maybe had experiences with things. It'd be really good to be able to hear your side of that factor. That would be a really good thing to bring onto this show, and this is the sort of work that we work in with people as well, so it would be an interesting thing to do, and it will definitely help the company to keep going up, guys. So I'm not going to hold you too long, guys. I'm going to get straight into the category. So here we go with the Slender Man. First, I'm going to do a prayer. Okay. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but to deliver us from evil. For thy is thy kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So I like to put a bit of protection around to make sure that everybody's okay. Obviously, these sort of categories can be quite touchy and quite weird. And a lot of people are not sure if it's a real thing or not. The Slender Man is really one of these sort of categories where, is he real or is he not real? There is so many people that say that they've had sightings and they've had experiences to do with the Slender Man. Then you've had those that say that it's not real, it's just a made up character that they bring out on the internet and things. But there has been some rather disturbing things that have happened through the name of the Slender Man, and there are some people that very much believe in him, and I've done research and stuff to an extent about him. He's not really a character that is really, really well known. Obviously, he's known in the paranormal field for what he is, but there isn't a lot known about him. So I thought that tonight's show would be really good to bring that out and to talk to you. And obviously, what we show you in content is not us saying that it is real. This is just us educating you and giving you something to think about. Okay, so really it is down to you guys if you believe that this story is real or not. Okay, so always be aware of that, guys. We do not try to push things onto you. It is your choice in what you believe in. As usual, I do research and look into things and come off of websites with lots of information as well. And I do read from the screen because it's easier for me, because I don't remember everything from previous head injuries and stuff. So sometimes I forget things. So I like to write my stuff down. The Slender Man, also known as the Slenderman, is a supernatural creature with nobishly defined characteristics and abilities. Slender Man was first mentioned in Something Awful forums created by Paranormal Images. He generally appeared in modern times, a tall humanoid creature in a black or grey suit, red or black tie, and white shirt. His face is totally white, completely divide, devoid of facial features. So he's got no features at all. He has no hair and generally has normal looking bare hands, albeit with fingers longer and bonier than a typical human. Slenderman has been depicted in imaginary and literature at anywhere between 6 and 15 feet tall, depending on the situation. Though in video, he is usually only around 6 to 7 foot. Right, I've lost, yeah. Because of his extinct nature and differences between accounts, no one has yet determined what exactly the Slender Man is. Currently, there are two leading theories as to what the Slender Man may be: the Tupel effect and the quantum theory. The internet popularity of Slender Man has swarmed a massive number of internet connected ARGs, collectively known as the Slender Man mythos. The Slender Man's lore. In almost every description of the Slender Man, his attributes will vary, sometimes greatly. However, his basic appearances and traits are relatively consistent across different accounts. His appearance has changed over the years, but the most common image and the most well known in media is that of an abnormal tall man with long arms and a totally blank face. He is usually portrayed as wearing a business suit, which may be either real cloth or some form of skin, molded to take on the appearance of clothes. If the former, this would imply an intelligent being attempting to try to blend in. If it is the later, it suggested an extremely adaptive being that evolved to match its environment. He behaves in what might seem as a passive aggressive manner, often stalking targets for years at a time before ever attacking. It's understood that he tends to torture his targets mentally over long periods of time using fear and paranoia to drive them to insanity. No one has ever satisfactorily is never scientifically explained the reasoning behind his tactics or the way he chooses his victims, and his purpose and or motivation have yet to be fully assorted. He is rarely, if ever, portrayed in a good or being of light, and is generally understood to be a malevolent force. Slender Man is a mystery. He looks like a human being but doesn't act like one. It is uncertain if he is a social creature, understands human language or behaviors, or even why humans appear to be his primary targets. It sometimes seems as if he is capable of possessing his targets in some cases. Slender Man's mere appearance provokes fear. This is particularly due to his towering height and overall unnerving appearance, and particularly due to his behavior, which is almost completely alien. Humans also find it extremely hard to describe the Slender Man. A description in words can be given, but often lack the ability to fully describe the creature. It is believed that the Slender Man is thought from exists or a fourth dimensional plane, which would account for some of his apparent abilities. So he could possibly be alien. There are two main descriptions of the Slender Man behavior. Originally, he was portrayed as being not only malevolent but also extremely dangerous. He would stalk its targets, impale them on trees, and remove their organs. Incompressions, contemporary deceptions have turned him into a more passive aggressive creature. Instead of an active chase, he is more likely to let his prey delve slowly into madness until they are unable to cope with their situation, often watching from afar as this takes place. If angered, it will change the aggressor and vanish with its victim to an unknown location. Modern interpretations also show that the Slender Man interacts oddly with electrical equipment and causes massive interference with audio and visual recording devices. Sometimes an individual can determine if the Slender Man is near simply by how certain electrics act. Radios, televisions, and cameras are especially susceptible. How powerful this effect is seems to vary, which could be due to either the Slender Man's state of aggression or other outside factors that he may or may not be controlling, e.g., weather, cell phone signals, etc. In almost every contemporary description, the Slender Man is associated with stalking, often for extremely long periods. It is not unusual for a person to be trialed by the Slender Man for hours, days, months, or even years. However, he he usually appears when least expected and where the victim is alone and at the most comfortable. Home, school, work, outdoors, along trusted roads, etc. And oftentimes he also strikes when the target's defenses are down. Sometimes the point where they simply have no will to fight him off any further, making it far an easier kill. One of the most common features of the Slender Man, generally accepted among both fans of the mythos and the victims, is that he will target those who reach a certain level of understanding about it. These accounts vary from person to person, but it seems that being a victim of the Slender Man is almost contagious or memetic. One can become his prey by encountering someone he is already chasing. Basic research and even collecting images doesn't appear to incur its notice. Someone has to drive into the mythos in in an almost obsessive way. A theory sprouts from this, discussing how he could be able to track several victims at once due to the apparent number of people invested in the mythos. This theory states that he is a sort of om, om, omnipresent being. An example of the Slender Man's impressive height. The Slender Man's original abilities include sensitive invisibility, says to the adults or another without a camera, the ability to change height and body shape, the ability to shape its arms to tentacles, and or the ability to sprout tentacles like appendages from its back and shoulders to be used as additional arms or legs, or simply to install fear. Many stories seem to indicate that the Slender Man can control a person's mind, which becomes the basics for the proxies in the video are ARQ, ARG, a trend that later spread to Slender blogs. The Slender Man also originally had stronger connections to children, and many of the original stories revolved around disappearing children or feathered Slender Man sightings in photos with children. This was often attributed to the innocent and the morbid curiosity of children, which could lead them down the path of discovering the creature. As more stories came forth, however, the use of the tentacles and the tentacle-like appendages become less common, and the invisibility was limited or illimited depending on the storyteller. On the other hand, some stories took the invisibility even further and claimed it was entirely invisible without the use of electrical devices. The EMH and the TT and the ML and the DH all contain some sort of video and are or audio audio distortion, indicating that the Slender Man has an effect on modern digital instruments. This does not appear in any of the original accounts, but these also mainly make use of the photographs and the lower tech videos. EMH has suggested that this distortion is the effect of stigma, radiation said to be given off by Slender Man, and the rake sigma radiation is also contagious as it entered Evan's bloodstream when his arm was brutally mammed by the rake. EMH and ML also describe the phenomenon known as Slender Walking. Slender Walking is a term created to describe Slender Man's apparent teleportation and space-time warping and teleportation between locations. These abilities were seen in early Slender Man accounts and is one of the most recognized elements of the mythos. Slender Man's ability to appear seemingly from nowhere is a place where he wasn't mere seconds before is one of his most terrifying traits, and EMH mentions the effects of this on a person's mental health. Certain contemporary views see his movement as either extremely limited or impaired, as if he is incapable of moving his body properly. It is rarely seen to actually move and goes from standing still to rapidly teleporting within the blink of an eye. There is no apparent coherency to his movements or positions, and he is capable of teleporting several dozen times to various locations in a few seconds. He does not flee and can be just as dangerous standing still as when obviously teleporting. He is capable of and often will stay with several dozen feet of his target. No matter how they try to escape, it seems to be part of his physiology attacks to stay just within visual range without actually attacking. The fact that he is there, no matter what, is often described as worse than actually being attacked. The physiological effects often deteriorate in the mind of the victim as a result. He appears to be able to and follow any and all targets regardless of where they go or where and how they hide. It isn't certain how he does this, but he seems able to keep a perfect trace on its target, often speculated to be a part of his supposed existence and a potentially omnipresent being. Canon history and information. The Slender Man has no specifically confirmed history, but contribute to the mythos have placed early sightings of Slender Man-like beings in Germany in the early 1600s and before. Historically, the entity often took on the appearance of a knight or a noble figure. Germanic myths and fairy tales have been cited as containing Slender Man-like creatures as cautionary tales for children. Photographs from the early 1900s are the first confirmed reports where images of the Slender Man can be found in old photographs. Reports from this time indicate sightings in America, the UK, Russia, usually connected to reports of children's disappearances. In the mid 1900s, several run-ins occurred in the war zone in Germany, which in theorized to be the Slender Man native land. Soldiers were the primary targets here in America and Canada. There were reports of missing skiers and children, mainly coming from the forested and unoccupied areas. He is also held responsible for several strings of buildings burning with no apparent causes and multiple related deaths. The few survivors of Slender Man attacks, along with accounts left by victims, show the following historic traits. If the victim was a child, he would often approach them in a friendly fashion at first and attempt to gain their trust. The adult he stalks have one have one common trait. They had all been through a terrible tragedy in their life. Interestingly, in many cases, the tragedies was originally caused by Slender Man as well. If the victim was an adult, Slender Man would stalk the victim for long periods of time. This caused an illness that became known as Slender Sickness. Symptoms included massive paranoia, nausea, nosebleeds, nightmares, and hallucinations. Eventually, the Slender Man would abduct the victim, usually into a nearby forest, where they would be killed. In messy cases, Slender Man may remove evidence of its existence by burning the victim's home, place, or work, or school, often causing the death of others in the line of destruction. Generally, those close to the entire victim. Originally, Slender Man killed its victim by impaling them on the branches of very tall trees and allowing them to bleed to death. The victim's organs would be individually removed and placed in plastic bags, which where they returned to their original positions in the body. The victims' corpses did not show any sign of a struggle. However, as time has gone on, it would seem that Slender Man has abandoned this practice. In the late 1900s, the more and more common use of cameras and cam recorders allowed technology to shed more light on the creature, and the Slender Man was recorded and photographed stalking potential victims many times in the late 2000s to the early 2010s. Several individuals recorded ongoing stalking and attacks sensors with themselves and friends. These videos accounts are code-named Marble, Hornet, Everyman Hybrid, Doc, Harvey's 2, LM Anderson, Trib 12, as well as a certain Riven. Videos, new accounts of the Slender Man's power, abilities, and attacks show some dramatic differences from his original behaviours. Gone in the original desire to impale targets on the trees, his obviously aggressive attitude, and the tendency to target mainly children, he now appears to target people who encountered him as children, often stalking them for years. It does so in such a way that the target is often unaware of his presence for months, years, or even decades. Typically, the victim won't be aware of its attention until far too late because of the somewhat contagious nature of Slender Man's attacks. An entail victim may not even be aware that they are causing others to be targeted, since they may not know that he is stalking them. The Slender Man's stalking behavior is remarkably passive. He torments an individual by repeatedly appearing and vanishing, usually without harming the victim in any physical way. He invades the mental safety of his prey by appearing inside their house, outside their home, on the road they travel, at their place of work, when they are alone, or ensuring only the victim can see him, or while the target is sleeping. The sporadic and the unexpected nature of these manifestations causes fear and unease, which eventually can grow into incredible paranoia. This period of stalking can last anywhere from several minutes to decades. The longer Slender Man stalks a victim, the greater strain on their mental health, which may be one of his goals. Prolonged stalking causes what has been named Slender Sickness, which is both a mental and physical element and can cause paranoia, nightmares, coughing, and difficulty swallowing, convulsion, exhaustion, vomiting, hallucinations, etc. The physical symptoms naturally affect an individual's mental health, but it is believed that Slender Man exerts a direct effect on the mind as well. However, this phenomena and the Slender Man control over it has yet to be fully explained. As mentioned, the behavior of taking organs out of impaling targets appears to have been abandoned. If reports of Slender Man new modern operandi are to be believed, it now vanishes with its targets, leaving no traces behind. Victims are usually alone when they vanish, leaving no witness. What little camera footage has been found is incredibly distorted, and it is nearly impossible to even theorize as to what they depicted. The victims are almost never found dead or alive, and it has been speculated that perhaps he does not kill victims immediately. One of the most powerful new traits Slender Man exhibits is some form of memory inhabitation. Like Slender Sickness, this effect can be caused simply by proximity, although it seems to vary as to exactly how powerful. In some cases, individuals will forget the past few minutes, but extended contact has led to people awakening in locations they are unfamiliar with no memory of how they got there. In some cases, it is believed that Slender Man itself will deposit a victim in an unknown location and leave them to awaken after an attack, possibly to continue stalking them further. Victims who are stalked by the Slender Man for extended periods show excessive damage to their social life, physical health, and even their careers. Typically, individuals will show massive mood swings and constant irritation, lose tracks of large periods of time, and have difficulty maintaining communication with friends or holding down steady work. Memory losses can be as long as several weeks or months, or even and often an individual awakens and attempts to return to their life only to find it ruined. These patterns are possibly indications that the Slender Man has at least some indication that he has knowledge and experienced with how the human mind works and reacts to various stimuli. It is possible that he exploits this deliberately, abandoning its more blunt tactics of impaling and getting its victims. It is possible he has moved to more suitable forms of attack, such as invading their minds, surrounding and those eliminating any feeling of safety and driving them to insanity in a slow torment. The Slender Man has always had some kind of odd connection to children. In the original mythos, its relationship with children is one of its most prominent traits, though no one is exactly sure why. Many theories exist as to why he targets children, including he wins over the confidence of children, but adults are repulsed by fear. The theory is one of the few that patient Slender Man as a benignant element, suggesting that he actually seeks friendship of some kind and can only find it in children, who, unlike adults, he can get to trust him. He chooses children because he can take longer to nurture their fear, stalking them for years before attacking them as adults. He brainwashes children, using them to further his own unspecific ends and proxies. Children are simply easier for him to hunt. There are literally dozens of ideas of variations of those ideas, but since no bodies have been found in contemporary tales and classic tales don't mention the fate of Slender Man's child victims, he often portrayed targeting of children is unexplained. Frequented locations. The Slender Man is most commonly depicted as being found in deserted and derelict locations, often forested, where he can hunt without his victims being able to get help from other people or enemies, emergency services. It shows a performance. It shows a preference for forests and dens, woodland, partly because he can easily blend with the trees, and partly because of how easy it is to confuse the terrified victims. He, he has also been encountered in graveyards, old houses, ghost towns, and abandoned mansions, where he lies in wait behind walls and doors to ambush his victims. Examples of these locations include Slender Man the Eight Pages, Slender Man the Arrival, and the Slender Man Rising, which depict fictional encounters with Slender Man associations. Slender Man is associated with several group individuals or creatures. The least known of these is an unknown organization which tracks and observes and is also possibly involved with Slenderman. The organization is officially unnamed, though it may be known as Optic Nerve and appears only in early written accounts. It makes an assumed appearance in only one ARG, Dark Harvest 2, which is TOO. Slenderman has links to many proxies, which are insane individuals under his control or influence. The nature of proxies, their workings, etc., are unknown, but make appearances in EMHs as habit and TT as observer. Slenderman has also spawned many physiological and theological cults made up of uninfluenced but aware individuals, such as the Novus Ordo Europa, the Dark Hovis TOO, and the Rake, in the name given to another mysterious creature. This is somehow linked or associated with the Slender Man. So they're saying that the Rake and the Slender Man are supposed to be associated in some sort of way. This could be very possible. Linked or associated with the Slender Man, the Rake has a far shorter history, and the only real appearance of association with Slender Man or the proxy is through the video accounts of EMH. So here's some facts about Slenderman. How old is Slenderman now? What does Slenderman do when he catches you? If the victim was an adult, Slenderman would stalk the victim for long periods of time. This causes an illness that becomes known as Slender Sickness. Symptoms include massive paranoia, nausea, nosebleeds, nightmares, and hallucinations. How tall is the Slender Man? In some stories, he is 15 feet tall. In others, he is the size of a normal human man. Sometimes he has the tentacles growing out of his back. He is always wearing a black suit, as with many monstrous beings of urban legends. Slender Man is usually said to live in the woods, often near the suburbs. What is the Slender Man's weaknesses? Slender Man's weak spots. The only way to beat Slender Man is to beat him with Hologon's lamp. How do you know if Slender Man is near? The Slender Man is often associated with the forest and or abandoned locations and has the ability to teleport. Proximity to the Slender Man is often said to trigger a Slender Sickness, a rapid onset of paranoia, nightmares, and delusions, accompanied by nosebleeds. What is slender walk? Slender walking is a term used to describe Slender Man's apparent teleportation, appearing and disappearing at will. As Slender Man is seldom seen walking, it can be expected that Slender Man walking is his primary means of transportation and stalking his runners. I now have some information on the sightings. It's just a little short thing, but I just wanted to get this bit out of the way. So obviously, for a lot of people, they believe that he is a fictional character that has come from internet and different groups. But there is a lot of accounts where people have said they have seen him and they've had experiences from a young age and have continued that into adult age. And he's meant to stalk his victims, and he's meant to, depending on if you're a child or not, on how long he's going to stalk. But it can be known, as it says, for him to stalk for a couple of days, several weeks, several months, or even years, and sometimes even decades. Okay, so he's not an energy that just suddenly comes to you. To me, from what I read and what I understand of him, he is an energy that seeks certain people out, and he sees them from a young age. That is normally the sort of thing that he would normally do. Obviously, at the beginning, he would go to victims, he would stalk them and that. But now, in the more stone age of our time, apparently now when the Slender Man sightings are supposed to happen, it normally starts off from a child age and it goes through up to adult, depending on that person or child at that time. Okay, because there has been some categories and some factors on the Slender Man. There was a case that happened a few years back where a young teenage girl was known to have stabbed her best friend 19 times because apparently she was trying to prove the existence and the truth of the Slender Man, and she ended up doing that and obviously killing her friend, and she was put onto trial along with another person. There was another friend with her that was there as well. There was two of them that were tried, but she was the one that done most of the stabbing, and this was meant to have been because the Slender Man was in communication with her and made her do these things, or them do these things, because there was two of them. So here's just a little bit on the sightings, and then we'll see what you think after, guys. The Slender Man sightings have increased in the town of Cannock Chase in Staffordshire, England. The increased sightings over the months of the 8-foot pencil-thin spectre has resided on edge. Some of the witnesses have described the ghoulish figure as having blood-red eyes and dooning Victorian-era attire. Most of the sightings occurred in the town forest region, though some have alleged encountering the entity in their own homes. Photos have been taken in the Cannock Forest and allegedly shown an apparition believed to be the none other than the Slender Man himself. These photos were taken by medium Christine Harmon. While the photo is vague, Harmlet believes it shows the top half of the spectre. Cannock Chase is a small mining town and is long known as a hotspot for ghost sightings. Only local residents from Pye Green claimed the Slender Man paid her a visit back in December. She described her chilling encounter in the following manner. I was woken just before 2 a.m. by an odd scratching noise in my bedroom. To my astonishment, there was what seemed like a sphere-shaped shadow by the edge of my wardrobe. It was about 8 feet tall and had a white face with razor-sharp fangs. Past witnesses have claimed even more frightening encounters, with some saying that they were pinned down and rendered immobile while a terrifying figure loomed within their peripheral vision. Investigator Lee Brinkley has been researching the recent Slender Man sightings and finds it particular that these sightings have increased dramatically. She does propose that at least some of the encounters can be attributed to sleep paralysis, which occurs when the mind awakens but the body is unable to move. This often causes immense fear and a sense of that someone or something is watching over them while their body remains paralyzed. Slender Man sightings in recent months have generated social media discussions of the paranormal. The legend of the Slender Man is a centuries-old folklore with roots in Scotland. Those sightings have been reported all over the world. In May, two girls from Washington, USA, tried to kill their 12-year-old friend by stabbing her repeatedly in the hopes that their murderous acts would conjure this Slender Man and get it to reveal itself. So she wasn't killed, but they done this hoping that the Slender Man would come to their fate and come forward to them. There is a big fan page to do with the Slender Man, and there's a lot of people that follow him and believe in him and think he's this great thing. And obviously, these girls were that contribution as well. And at one point, these girls did claim that they had some sort of influence from him. They felt that he was around them and things like that, and they felt that through them doing that, that he came forward to them. A lot of people put it down to people with mental health issues and stuff like that. Like, I'm not being funny, but they do that with a lot of the paranormal stuff, really, don't they? And spirits and stuff. Like, they think you're nuts if you see things and stuff. But the true fact about it all is that nobody really knows the true extent of who the Slender Man is, or if he is really real. Okay, people have done photos. There have been what seems like very tall, skinny looking men that look very scary in photos from way back, like hundreds of years. Okay, all the way up to recent. But the problem is back a day, it would have been harder for you to be able to do anything to a photo to make a photo look like it's something there. Where today, with technology, it's very easy to be able to upload something onto something and make it look like something is there when it's not. So we don't always know if some of these photos are genuine or not, do we really? But the true fact behind the Slender Man is that nobody really knows if he's real or not. Okay, there are people that have had accounts of seeing him. There are people that believe that he is just typically a character that has been made up by many people that just seem to have an obsession with this character that they have come to know. And in that, they've made all these stories and they've done all this stuff, and people have become that obsessed by it that they do mad things and start to believe in him. But I don't know, like I'm in two minds. Like, I don't not believe in him, and I do believe in him, so I do and I don't. I'm not sure because I've not encountered him in that way. And we know that there are other beings that are similar to what he is and are very dangerous. We will not mention names. And they are very real. Okay, so we can't really sit there and say that Slender Man's not real. All we can say is that we don't know. Okay, and the only way we would typically find out is if we encountered it, which by the stories and by what is said about him, I don't think a lot of people are going to want to encounter him just because of what he can do and how advanced and intelligent he's supposed to be. Okay, so again, it's a bit like the Blair Witch one last week. It's something where you want to but you don't want to because you don't know what the outcome's going to be, sort of thing. Hello, everybody. Let me just shout out everybody in the room as well, because I haven't been ignoring you, my angels. I've just been really busy in doing the reading. Again, I apologise about my reading. I am dyslexic, guys, so I do struggle to read sometimes. Okay, so I do post all of my content out onto my Facebook pages and onto the Bald and Bonkers and wherever I can get it onto my main page as well, so that you guys can read it up for yourself, because some of the spellings I find really difficult to read, and I do apologise about that. I try to read it as best as I can, but I like to get the information there so you can go over that yourself and you can understand more of what I'm saying. Most of it is clear, but I get the odd word where I'm like, So we've got Black Dragon. Hello, sweet. No, you're not the Slender Man, darling. Of course you're not. Then you've got Phonics. We've got Mike, the Naked Bigfoot. Hello, Mike. We've got Dobby. Hello, sis. I hope you're okay. We've got lovely sis Phoenix. We've got Drew Moore, which is Chris's brother. Hello. We've got lovely Thinking of Others. Hello, my darling. Love you, angel. Love you all. So this was the category on the Bald and Bonkers. Well, we are on the Bald and Bonkers. Woohoo! But this was the topic on the Slender Man. Okay, so with these ones, I don't want it to be really, really long ones so that you guys are sitting there like, when is it going to be finished? But I want you to be able to hear the main story behind them. There are a lot of things that can actually make you be taken, sweetheart. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is Slender Man, sweetheart. Like you know, there are a lot of energies out there that do things like that, aliens and things as well. You know, that's quite interesting. You say that you said that you felt like something was trying to take you and stuff. We may have to talk about that a little bit more, Dobbies. Thank you, Dobbies, and I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that you guys do enjoy it. Hello, sis and brother. Smith Family Paranormal, another awesome team, guys, and amazing company. So please explain screen memory. That's interesting. Okay, well, we could do that on another topic, shall we? I ain't got no topic for next week. So how about we do some talk on that then? Screen memory. Yeah. What Dakota says. It's where somebody goes through a phenomenon in their life, a tragedy or something that disrupts them, and this can, as Dakota said, it gets altered, like things change in them, in their behavior, that sort of thing. But I think that we could do a show on the lost magics to do with that then. So I think we will look into what screen memory is more for you guys, so that you guys can understand it a little bit more. Okay, but it is basically what Dakota said. It's where people go through traumatic events and have bad things happen in their life, and somehow what happens to them gets altered, and that can sometimes really affect them in a negative way, depending on what sort of situation it was and stuff. So yeah, definitely we'll do a show on that. So you've got me my next topic, because there is a lot more to it. It's something you will never forget. And when you have these sort of experiences, it is really hard to forget them. You know, they can be traumatic and scary. And as like the Slender Man witnesses, they said that it was a traumatic and a very scary time, and it put a lot of fear into them and stuff, so. And you find that in a lot of paranormal encounters, whatever the spirit is, like especially the negative ones, you'll find a lot of people feel that sort of way, like they can never get that out of their head, and the fear, the factors through what they felt at that time, sadly, when you're into the strange and the unknown, you kind of have to be prepared for that sort of action to happen, and you have to be prepared for the good and the bad, and as you guys, as our followers, our fam, it is very good to be educated about these sort of things, because it kind of helps you to understand a little bit more. It kind of puts you in a better position. So if you was to encounter anything like this, you have some sort of understanding to what it may be. Obviously, I've sat here and I've read about the Slender Man. I've gave you topics and things on the way that he can make you feel. Please, nobody start sitting there and freaking out thinking that the Slender Man's with you because you're having some of these situations. It doesn't necessarily mean it's him. These are just some of the traits that he's supposed to carry, okay? So if you do have any worries, and they go to somebody professional, people like us, but like I said to you, I'm not 100% sure about him, okay? And if he is a character, I don't think that he's fully understood. And I don't know if people would want to try to find out and understand him because of what he's supposed to be able to do. So I just always remember to keep safe and keep doing those prayers and looking after yourself, and always keep your eyes wide open, and always listen to your intentions and your feelings, okay? Because they are the most prominent thing in your life, and they can't do you wrong most of the time. So just take that advice, my angels, and just know that even though we like to bring this as an entertainment and for something for you guys to have on a Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, remember this is an educational thing, and this can learn you and help you and prepare you for situations, not just to do with him, but any sort of energy, okay? So just remember that. And well, keep being awesome, guys. Keep doing your pages. Keep being the amazing people that you are. A big shout out again to our sponsors, all of our networks that put us out there, to Parapost, DNTV, obviously the Bald and Bonkers boys, to obviously all of the other companies and people that I support and am there for. And obviously to you, our amazing guys in the room, and obviously to our TV presenters and all of the other amazing people out there that are helping to get our company to continue going upwards. We love you all, guys, and thank you very much. But from me, that is the end of the show, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. So next week we will talk about what Dobby suggested. So that will be our next show. So until then, be safe, be real, and a merry parting, and I will see you very soon. And remember that when you go to sleep, those spirits creep and they're always around you. And stay spooky. And I'll see you very soon. Merry parting.